So, welcome. We are back after a catastrophe. The cat was being a pain, so he may well be back. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, so we are here today talking about the SAM or ITAM awareness and communications process. So this is all about making sure that you blow your own trumpet and that you are communicating what needs to happen in order for your SAM plan to be a success, really.
Yeah. So in line with, shall we say, the creation of an ITAM or SAM policy and also the creation of a SAM or ITAM operations plan, one thing to be absolutely clear on is to know your audience, and that at that point you have an idea of what your reports should actually look and feel like as well. So that's quite important. Don't give them what you think they want, give them what you know they need. And all of a sudden you could find yourself saving yourselves an awful lot of work, because you could be crafting the Fabergé equivalent of a report, and the stakeholder in question just really wanted, a basic inventory count of a particular title in a particular department.
Or not even that, they wanted a summary.
Yeah.
They didn't want the detail at all. They just wanted a summary, because that's what they need. So this process is really about thinking systematically about what you want to communicate, and I think it needs to happen on a number of different levels. So one is thinking about your reporting, although we do have a separate reporting process that addresses that. Thinking about, one of the processes that feeds into this one is your skills and capabilities process, the people process, because the outcome of that might be that you need to do some communications and awareness activities to make sure that people understand their role within your IT asset management system. And then, of course, there is understanding your stakeholders, making sure that your stakeholders are supportive of you when you need them to be supportive. So I think this is a process where you can actually call in some business analysis techniques. So things like a SWOT analysis, which I can never remember what it stands for. Strengths,
weaknesses, opportunities and threats.
That's the one. You can also do some stakeholder mapping to think about which stakeholders you need to, so you put them in different quadrants and sort of think about, are they supportive of you, or are they being negative? Are they trying to disrupt the anti what you're trying to achieve? So that sort of thing, and then think about how you can communicate with them to try and shift them in the direction that you need them to be, so to be more supportive, for instance. And then again, of course, being, IT asset management often ends up being a bit of a hub of information for all sorts of different parts of the business and of IT itself. So thinking about, well, what information do my different stakeholders need from me, and putting in place a systematic approach to as Rory said before, delivering that information. So it's something that we do all the time, but a lot of us just do it based on gut instinct, and this process provides us with some steps to actually systematize and produce something that's a bit more considered.
Yeah. So having gone through that sort of those communications objectives that we've highlighted, and the methodology around how you actually tease those out, the next steps might be to consider what the comms channels are, and this again brings me to a side story, strangely enough, because I was watching TV the other night. I was having a reminisce and a sway for my time in the Navy, because there was a feature on the new aircraft carrier Queen Elizabeth, or newish anyway, and they had a frigate with them as part of an escort over the Atlantic, and what they were finding was, rather than actually using radios to communicate with each other, the radios on, I think it was the Monmouth or the Montrose, one or the other anyway, the radios were down.
Right.
So what did they do to communicate
Semaphore.
instead? They weren't quite using semaphore, although that was Plan C.
Oh right, okay.
Plan B was the old light.
Oh, okay.
Morse code.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Right.
And the captain rightly highlighted, because I thought, oh my God, how 17th century and all that kind of thing. But he said, it's that much harder to intercept your radio waves. Are broadcast, so they go here, there, and everywhere, and they can be listened into. Not so much with the light. You have to be line of sight with the light to know what's being sent. And same, well, it's not so much semaphore. You can look at that a bit more distance, but yeah, the light worked, and that's what they were using to sort of stay in touch and keep in the right direction. So the reason I mentioned that, of course, is because some people might like emails, some people might like a quick chat around the water cooler.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Some people want, flowery PDFs and God knows what else. Some people might be quite happy with CSV exports or whatever the tool can provide then at that point. So your method and frequency of communication is key to understanding what's going to give you a happy stakeholder or customer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So having decided what methodology we're going to adopt, we then create a SAM comms plan. And an important point too on that is to weave into the plan not just the shall we say the boring, I say boring, the usual sort of SAM reports that an organisation might approach, but also to consider that you inform people of the SAM journey that the company is going on, not least because they might think that, oh well, SAM stops at the point of a purchase of a tool. Not the case, as we all well know. You've got to get the thing up and running, functioning, agent rollout, inventory importation, entitlement importation, alignment of data within the SAM suite to give you those hot doggedy ELP reports. All of that shouldn't just be resident in your head. It should be something that is communicated to the business so they understand where the business is on that SAM journey.
Yeah. So if you're in a large formal organisation with a big team, you may well define a communication schedule or something like that. I guess if you're in a smaller organisation or it's just you, you're going to sort of probably not be quite so formal. But of course, you actually need to implement your communications plan, and that means getting the communications out there, creating them, getting them out there, getting feedback on them, making sure that they actually achieve what you need them to achieve. And of course, a big part of any form of communication, particularly for IT asset management, where we're so data heavy, is reporting. So from here, we feed out to the reporting process, but we also need to make sure that our non-reporting communications are aligned to the IT communications process. So you may find that your organisation has different protocols and different ways of communicating. I mean, some organisations, for instance, have a rule that the service desk is the only entity within IT that can send communications directly out to end users. So you need to, prepare your communications and get the service desk to agree to send them, for instance. So, there's a bit of potentially some negotiation there to make sure that the service desk realise that this is the role that they have to play, and that yes, your communications are important and they do need to go out, for instance. So you do need to just bear that in mind as well, that many organisations do have specific processes for communications.
So one interesting communications example I saw was in the movie business, and I can't remember which specific movie was being talked about at the time, but it's one of those where secrecy is key around the script. So the scripts go out on very heavy red paper. Right. So it makes them nigh on impossible to photocopy them at that point.
Right, yeah. So. Yeah. Actually, do you know, when I was living in Indonesia, when I was much younger, you would buy textbooks, and the textbooks would mostly be on white paper, but they would have segments of them on red paper. And again, it was precisely to
stop photocopying them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wow. So there we go. Anyway, so I think that's it for the communication awareness and communications program.
Yep.
Process. What am I saying?
It's one of those semi-governance ones that you mentioned, isn't it? Because the real heavy lifting around comms actually happens in the reporting process. But don't assume to me the reporting process is the USB of a SAM management system. That's where the business comes and says, "Gimme, gimme, gimme." This is setting up the framework and establishing the protocols and the systems and the routines that are going to stand you in good stead when it comes to actually executing on those reports in the reporting process.
100%. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. See you next time.
All right. Take care.